Hi, this is Donna Taggert, the dietitian from Department of Aging and Human Services. Last month we did the nutrition facts label and we're looking at things on it, and I promised you we start to delve deeper into some of the items. So this month we're going to look into sodium. What is sodium? A lot of people think of sodium as table salt, but table salt is actually sodium chloride. It's only 40% sodium. Sodium is actually a mineral. We need it. It's essential for our bodies. Small amounts will help with fluid balance, muscle contraction, and the nervous system. However, diets high in sodium are associated with increased blood pressure, which is linked with heart attack, stroke, and kidney disease. So the average American gets way more sodium than is recommended. 2,300 milligrams per day is the amount, generally consensus, but we actually don't even need that much. But because most Americans do twice as much as that, it's a realistic goal of 2,300 milligrams. And depending on what you eat, where you eat, really can be high as 7,000 sometimes. That's a lot of sodium per day. So a lot of people think, I don't use salt on my food, so I don't get a lot of sodium. But actually, the salt isn't bringing a lot of sodium to the table. It's 70% of our sodium comes from the hidden things in foods and packages. And that's where it's really hard because it's in so many things. 10 main foods, I'll list them. You see if you eat any of them, I'm sure you do. Pizza, sandwiches, deli meats, soups. That's a hard one for me. I love soup out, but a cup of soup at, say, Panera or a restaurant could be 1,000 milligrams for one little cup of soup. Cheeses have a lot of sodium, tacos, potato chips, fried chicken, scrambled eggs, and omelets. And here's the one that gets a lot of people. Breads and rolls. They don't taste salty. You think, not much salt in them, but some slices of bread can have up to 300 milligrams of sodium in one slice. So if you had 2 slices of bread for a sandwich, there's 600 milligrams right there. And I don't know if you remember from the studying the label facts, low sodium food is 140 milligrams. So obviously 300 is a lot, and you add all these things up through the day, you can easily get to more than we need. So what can we do about it? Here's some hopefully simple things you can do to help reduce sodium in your diet. One is to choose fresh foods over packaged and processed foods. Always reading labels. Remember, we looked at labels. You can compare labels. Some manufacturers use a lot of sodium in their foods, some don't. So always look at that label. Use that percentage of daily value that we talked about. Remembering 5% daily value means it's a low item. 20% or higher means there's a lot. So look for things that are in that low category. Eating more fruits and vegetables, easy way to stay fresh. Fresh vegetables, you can get canned vegetables, but you have to get ones that say no added salt, or you're going to have a lot of sodium in the canned. Frozen vegetables are good as long as you're not getting ones with sauces or anything like that. But here's the key. If you remember, I'm always pushing fruits and vegetables, 9 to 11 servings. That's a lot. Even trying to get 5 a day is more reasonable for most Americans. But you're bringing a lot of potassium to the table from those fruits and vegetables. And potassium kind of helps balance that sodium level. So potassium is good. More potassium, less sodium is always good for our bodies. And the way to do that is from eating those fruits and vegetables, legumes, nuts, all bring potassium, low-fat dairy, potassium. A third thing is to skip or limit frozen dinners. Wow, if you've ever been to the grocery store and look at those frozen meals, some of them can be over 1,000 milligrams of sodium in the one single serving. So if you're going to do that, and honestly, convenience, you don't want to eat out all the time, so these are easy to pop in your microwave. Look for ones about 500, 600 milligrams, and you'll be okay with that. Fourth thing is to limit condiments. This little packet of ketchup, 95 milligrams of sodium in it. And you're like, well, that's low, under 140, right? But does anybody use just one packet of this? Probably not. So 3, 4 packets, all of a sudden you're up to, maybe 400 milligrams of sodium just for the condiment you're using with whatever, your French fries, which already have a lot of sodium. So it's important to watch the condiments. Try to find lower sodium items, like soy sauce is super high in sodium, but you can get a lower version of it, lower sodium. Still high, but not as bad as the original. Salad dressings all have a lot of sodium in it at times. Make your own. I get a good olive oil, a good balsamic vinegar, put the two together, and you've got a great salad dressing. You don't even need anything else with it. The balsamic vinegar brings such great taste to the food, so you have no salt, no added sugars that a lot are found in salad dressings. Barbecue sauce, all those types of condiments. Try to watch how much you're using, if you use it at all. Another way to substitute is using herbs and spices. I have this one that I get. This is from Watkins. It's an all-purpose seasoning, salt-free, and it is wonderful. I sprinkle it on chicken before I grill it, on any kind of meat, on fish. Wonderful tasting. You don't even miss the salt because there's such a nice blend of a lot of different herbs and spices in this that brings the flavor out of your food. So you can definitely find things. Now beware of some of the seasonings like lemon pepper. Does that sound like it has salt in it? Doesn't, but look on the label, and most lemon pepper seasonings do have salt. So you have to be really, again, always reading those labels. Watch out for fresh or frozen chicken. Many times they're nice and tender and juicy. It's because they've injected it with a salt broth, a saline solution. Not always obvious. Got to read the fine print to see that. Example. All right. Chicken broth. I like to make a lot of soups. Regular chicken broth, 860 milligrams per 1 cup. Now this is low sodium chicken broth, 140. So that's really a big difference. You might like, oh, I don't know about the taste. There's one in between. There's one that's 33% less sodium, and that's 570 milligrams. Often my soups need 2 of these, so I'll use one low sodium and one with the 33% lower, and that makes it like in between about 300 milligrams per cup of broth. And I do that so it still has a little bit of flavor. But again, using herbs and spices, adding to your broths can really help. But honestly, the first time you do this, you're going to be like, ugh, this tastes terrible. You got to get those taste buds trained. And it could take 4 to 6 months for your taste buds to really start not sensing that salt's missing. And then all of a sudden you'll eat something salty and you're like, wow, this is really salty tasting, because your taste buds have been trained. So don't ever give up. Take your time, do steps, incremental steps, using the different broths in between, using more herbs and spices. Cutting the recipe, a recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt, cut it in half. See how that happens, how it tastes, and then just keep working your way down to the point where you can say, I'm not even going to put salt in this recipe at all. So it's just a matter of, doing things, taking your time. One of the other things to really cut down on sodium is to cook your things at home, like I'm talking, using lower sodium, no added salt, tomatoes in your sauces and stuff. Because eating out at a restaurant, there's no way you're going to get a low sodium food. Eating at fast foods, restaurants, fancier restaurants, often you can say, can you, hold the salt, but you're not going to be able to do that at a fast food. You got what they're doing. And so I don't say don't ever eat out there. I enjoy it once in a while, but make it a once in a while thing. Not eating out every night or every day at lunch will really help cut back on that sodium. Or if you know you're going out, think of what you're eating the rest of the day and cut down on your sodium for the rest of the meal, so that dinner that you're eating out, it's going to be high in sodium, then it's not as bad as if you just went and didn't think about it at all. Some people ask me about sea salt versus regular table salt. So regular table salt's mined from underground mines. It's processed more to make it finer. Sea salt is evaporated seawater. It's coarser. So a lot of times you can get away with less sea salt because it's coarser. You taste it better with your taste buds. So same amount of sodium in it, but you're using less of it. Now, people think, well, from the sea, it's got all these minerals from the sea. Such a trace amount of those minerals. You're better off eating a piece of fruit to get the minerals than trying to get it from justifying using a lot of sea salt. Also, sea salt, because it's not processed as much, it doesn't have iodine added to it, regular table salt. You can get iodized table salt, and that's because a lot of people are getting goiters, and so the iodine was important because people didn't get a lot of iodine in their diet. So it's up to you what you want to do. The less of any of it, because it's still salt, whether it's coming from the sea or coming from an underground mine, it's still salt. So if you're really struggling with your blood pressure and you're like, oh, my doctor's wanting me to go on medication, before you do that, ask your doctor, can you try changing your diet. There's a diet out there called DASH diet. It's called Dietary Approaches to Stopping Hypertension, DASH. And it was brought about in the 90s from the National Institute of Health. And they did a study because they noticed all these vegetarians had really much lower blood pressure. So they did a huge research study, and they not invented, but they created this DASH diet. It's full of fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, low-fat dairy, whole grains, not a lot of animal protein, but it's still there. Basically a plant-based diet. And they found within 2 weeks, blood pressure was coming down. And then they found also, in addition to that, people were losing weight. They're lowering the risk for chronic diseases like diabetes and cancers and different things. And they're like, wow, this is a great diet. And it has vied for first place with the Mediterranean diet. They share it on and off. U.S. News, World and Reports does overall best diets, and they are like number one. DASH diet, Mediterranean diet, they're both plant-based, and it's a good diet, overall diet to follow. Anyone can follow it. You can do it the rest of your life. It's a healthy eating pattern. It's not hard to follow. It's not expensive to follow, and it has really great health benefits. I have something that I want you to download if you can. It's a PDF on a tracking form for the DASH diet. It lists all the categories of the foods, vegetables, fruits, dairy, nuts, etc. And it tells you the target of the amount you need, little blocks for each day, and you can check off as you eat it throughout the day. And it really might help you see where maybe you're falling short on things. When I did it, I thought, I'm a dietitian. I think I eat really well. I try to do practice what I preach, and I realized I really wasn't meeting the target for vegetables and fruits. So hang it on your refrigerator and use it as a reminder and an incentive to try to eat those things. It helps you realize that maybe you're not eating something instead of reaching for something that maybe not be a good choice. You could reach for something that you've fallen short on for that day. Anyway, at the DASH diet, there's lots of books on it. You can go on the internet, research it. You can go to the library and get a lot of recipe books. Lots of good books out there on the DASH diet. Like I said, it's been ranked #1 best overall diet for a good number of years now, and for a good reason. So next month, we will be talking about protein. And I hope you can join us if you like at any of the centers when I'm going through these presentations in a little bit more depth. But otherwise, I'll see you next month. Bye.